So how often should we be using protein? I personally think we should be using protein with every wash day. Literally everybody needs protein. If you're not using protein in your routine, you need to watch this video. The protein that our hair is made of is keratin, and it's important to know that as our hair ages with wear and tear, with manipulation, etc., the protein in our hair loses its integrity, and therefore you actually need to use proteins to help keep the integrity of the hair, to go in there and fill in the gaps and strengthen the hair. So I've done videos talking about everyone's high porosity, particularly people with type 4, not everyone, but most people with type 4 hair are high porosity hair. That means that the hair is porous, it's got gaps, it's got, pores. Each lift and bend and turn in the coil represents a lifted cuticle, which leaves the hair vulnerable and fragile and prone to damage and breakage and wear and tear. And as you already know, African women, we manipulate our hair, we comb our hair, we detangle our hair, we brush our hair. And while other cultures, other races do the same, the nature and the makeup and the texture and the type and the curl of our hair makes it so that our hair encounters more friction, encounters more propensity to tangling, damage, tearing, breaking, etc. So our hair is, much more in need of protein and maintenance because of its fragility and its propensity to get damaged easier than other hair types. I've spoken about a video talking about everyone's hair is damaged and what causes damage. We use heat, we use chemicals, we detangle, we go into the sun, we age over time, our diets are not the best, hormones, you name it. Like, you have some kind of damage on your hair. You've got a split end, you've got a single strand knot. Yeah, you can benefit from proteins. People with protein sensitivity like to shun away from proteins and say, I'm not going to use protein. I've done videos on products for protein sensitive people. I've done a video dedicated just to protein sensitivity and how to navigate that. Go check those videos out. However, if you're protein sensitive, that's not an excuse to not use protein. It's just a matter of what you're using, what proteins you're using, how often you're using the proteins, how, which products you're using them. All right, so if you're protein sensitive, you want to stick to low molecular proteins like peptides, amino acids, rice protein, silk protein, hydrolyzed proteins as well. However, there is a group of hydrolyzed proteins that seem to be larger than the others, okay? Hydrolyzed wheat protein, hydrolyzed soy proteins, those are hydrolyzed proteins, but still a little bit on the larger side. However, things like hydrolyzed silk, hydrolyzed rice, those are smaller. I've done a dedicated video talking about this, so go check that out. However, just be aware that it's not necessarily about omitting protein, it's about knowing what proteins you're putting in the hair. Another thing is that please understand that proteins are different, like I've already said, low molecular, high molecular, mid molecular, and proteins go to do different things in the hair. For example, some proteins go into the deeper layer of the hair to fill in the gaps. Others go to help moisture retention, okay, strengthening the hair and keeping the integrity of the hair. While others, like the larger proteins, keratin, collagen, they actually go ahead to coat the surface of the hair and strengthen it. And those are the ones that are more prone to give you the stiffness, rigidity, the brittleness after use, okay? So things like Afro-G, two-step, that one will really, you will feel the effect because it's got collagen, I think, number 2. So it's a very, very strong protein treatment, and it's got a large, high molecular protein, which is collagen in there. It doesn't mean one protein is better than the other. It just means you need to have a variety of proteins in your protein treatments to get all the benefits that proteins give. Now, for my DIYers, okay, people that like to do DIYs, just be aware that the proteins in vegetables, fruits, things found in the kitchen, most of those proteins are going to be large or high molecular proteins, okay? So they will be beneficial to coat the surface. However, they will have a high propensity to make your hair feel brittle or feel harder. So use with caution, and they can be beneficial in some ways, but just be aware that usually the proteins in DIYs will be larger proteins, okay, that do not penetrate the hair. You know, proteins in mayonnaise, proteins in eggs and avocado, that kind of thing. There'll be larger proteins that are going to be coating the hair, not penetrating the hair. Now, you can use proteins in shampoos, you can use proteins in deep conditioners, you can use proteins in leave-ins and even in stylers. I would probably discourage you from using protein in all those things. However, the use of protein really does need to trial and error. You have to try a few things, try a few products, a few combinations to see what works best for you. However, my favorite way to use protein is really in a treatment. I really want it to penetrate the hair and, you know, I want to have the effects of that protein as much as I can. However, I don't mind using them in like a leave-in, or maybe like even my sunscreen has got protein. I don't know where it is, but Sunbum, it's got a small amount of hydrolyzed quinoa, and that's a small amount of protein that you have in there. Also be aware that the higher the protein is on the list, the more concentrated it will be. So if you want a real protein, a true protein treatment, look for proteins in the top 5 to 7 of the ingredient list, or proteins in the midsection of the ingredient list. However, you have more than 2 of those proteins, okay? If you're looking for a maintenance kind of protein, then you find them in the lower, at the lower list, at the bottom of the ingredient list, or just one protein in the product. That's probably going to be a maintenance product that you can use even every couple of weeks, honestly. So how often should we be using protein? I personally think we should be using protein with every wash day, and that is for my monthly washes, okay? Every month, every 6 weeks at least, you should be using a protein. I know some brands say you can use them every week. Every 2 weeks, I would say proceed with caution. I don't want you guys to damage your hair. I didn't create this product, so I don't know. However, every week sounds much. Monthly, I feel like, is a safe way to incorporate protein effectively. However, you can sort of have maybe a leave-in conditioner that's got maybe 1 protein or 2 proteins. That way you still have maintenance and infusion of protein throughout the month, okay? Now, the most important thing when it comes to using protein is to make sure that you moisturize your hair, that you deep condition your hair. You cannot use protein without hydration and moisturization. So these two must work together. You don't necessarily need to go and buy out a dedicated protein treatment. You can sort of look for products that have got both hydrating, moisturizing, conditioning properties, but still also have protein in them. And again, it's a trial and error thing. As I discover these products, I'll bring them to your attention. However, like I said, I've done videos talking about products specifically, so go check those out. However, every protein treatment must include a deep conditioning treatment, okay? Or find a product that does both at the same time. Lastly, please don't attempt to include protein in your routine if you have not mastered your moisturizing routine. I've done many videos, a plethora of videos about moisturizing your hair. I am going to be doing a video about moisture training. Check that one out and definitely moisture train your hair before you start to use protein. All right, otherwise your hair is not really going to cope well with the possible drying effects of protein, okay? I hope this video was helpful. Protein is important, guys. It's important. It's important. Some of us have got breakage that is unresolved, soft hair, but unresolved protein. We need to include protein in our routines. Some people are worried about, how do I know my hair needs protein or what have you. The hair needs protein, even when you don't feel like it needs protein. Protein should be a part of our routine. You shouldn't wait for your hair to feel like it needs protein, okay? I know a lot of people say, oh, when the hair is feeling mushy and too moisturized, then add protein. Not really. Like, protein should just be a maintenance thing that you do on a regular. Of course, if your hair starts to feel hard, you know, crunchy, what have you, then definitely slow down. However, you shouldn't wait for your hair to be crunchy before you put in moisture. And you shouldn't wait for your hair to be super soft and limp before you put in protein. It should just be almost like a give and take, you know, finding a moisture protein balance, I guess. That's what we call it, isn't it? All right, guys, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.